Okay, so this is my first video ever trying to explain a pick and ban, and I've chosen the team I like the most in the LCS, Fnatic. Um, so in this game they're playing against G2, which is a game for first place in the European LCS. For the as you can see in the picks and bans, the G2 have elected to ban Vladimir, which is a great counter pick against Fnatic, since since Febervin is a monster on it, and he can access the backline, which is a theme in this pick and ban, that G2 wants to keep their backline safe. Then as well, they elect to ban Nidalee, which is probably the greatest ban you can ever select against a guy like Spirit. He's a monster. He's an absolute terror. He brings so much map pressure, and he brings a lot of stress on the other jungler, and he basically can single-handedly carry a game. Even though he might not kill the opponent, he gets so many deep wards down, and he makes Yellowstar a much better player when he got so much pressure, so they can roam around. So that's a great ban. And then lastly, they got a seer. This one I think you can debate, since in a way yeah, it's a good pick, but it's a really niche pick in a sense. A little bit like Vladimir, but I think Vladimir works well with a lot of compositions. When I think Azir is more like a really target ban against a certain strategy that G2 don't think they can work against. They can't win against that kind of thing from Fnatic. So I think that's an alright ban. And from Fnatic they've chosen Sivir. I think this one is really debatable. I don't really know what they want to do with that kind of ban, since Sven, he can play any kind of carry. I know that's a silly explanation, but really right now Sivir is just primarily a wave pusher and really great in a lane swap and such, but I don't think you get too much from banning her at the moment, since people can just pick Karma, which brings basically the same utility, or you could pick Lulu when she gets back in the meta in a week or two. So I don't think that's so much. You don't get much from banning Sivir at the moment. Then you got Bard, which I think is an excellent ban, in this kind of meta, where he can just set up so many things, and he works so well along with the likes of an Ashe or a Cillian, and an Olaf. Just any kind of pick-off compositions, he's a must ban against the likes of that. Then I don't really get why you ban Elise. I know she brings a lot in the early game, but really there's a lot of other things you could play in this meta at the moment. I think she's a bit overrated at the moment, but then again, who am I to tell? But I don't think you don't get so much from banning that kind of thing. Instead, I would probably go for something like banning maybe a Cassiopeia. I think she's really overpowered at the moment, and I don't think people are not using her. You could ban as well a Karma, but this time it's you can tell that Fnatic is trying to get Karma, so that's a viable thing to do. But I don't think you get too much from it. But well, onto the picks. Fnatic elects to take Karma, which is a great pickup. It brings so much utility, and you can play really many kind of compositions with this kind of pick, and it's alright in lane. It brings a lot of pressure. It's also great in a lane swap where you can do roams, and it's good with when you're following the jungler and setting up early wards, which I think is an overlooked thing at the moment in the meta. Uh, um, then, if I'm not mistaken, G2 basically goes for a kind of safe with Miffy and Sven on a I mean Trick on an Olaf and a Expect on Na, which I think is a great pickup since it brings so many things to the table. Na basically works against many things in this meta. There's not so many counters to him, and it's I think it's a limiting pick in a sense since you require so much setup for it, but later on in the draft they make the setup work for him, so he's worth something. I think Olaf is a great pick as well, in the way that it's it I know you kind of lack in the early levels, you lack some things, but it's really great when you have a setup that works with it, with the speed up, with the pick offs, the slows and such. Something that helps him makes him stronger and helps its kits. It synergizes with his kit. Then it's a great pickup. Then with second round, Fnatic goes for Ezreal and then Shen. Nothing to add here. I think Shen is really great in this meta, and when you look at the draft at the moment, you could see Fnatic running a really decent pick-off composition, which I think is working excellent in this meta, because both Karma and Shen coming in with his ultimate is unstoppable. But later on in the draft, you got to see you can see the flaw in Fnatic's tactic, because it doesn't work out at all. G2 then goes for the what was it? I think it was Sven and Miffy on the infamous Jin and Braum. I think it's a great pickup with the Braum since it basically nullifies Ezreal completely, and when you look at Fnatic, they're pinned down because they need some kind of wave clear. If you don't got wave clear in this kind of meta, you are doomed. I don't care what you think or say, because when you're limiting yourself so badly, you have to win really big in the early game to be able to snowball that kind of thing. If you don't got any wave clear or siege or anything, then you're basically locking yourself down in a little pit where you can't get out. So I think Braum is an excellent pick, and it works wonders against people storming towards you. A one-way CC. That's his main kit, is either picking up with a slow and slowing down people, or with his ultimate, or blocking the shots. I think it's a great pickup, because you can always see from Fnatic at the moment they want to rush against them. They want to get in their face, and I think Braum is a great tool to be able to stop that kind of thing if Fnatic would go for such things. So I think it's a decent pickup, a great pickup. Sorry, Jin. I really like this one because you can already see from Fnatic that I don't know if it was at the time a great pickup, but later on it turned out to be, because Fnatic were stupid. But I think it's really good in the meta at the moment. Like Ashe, it's the same kind of concept. Really, but Ashe is not that great in lane, and I think Jin is at the moment, and he doesn't need that many items to be really powerful. And he works well with Braum as well. The only thing he lacks is in a lane swap. That he's not that great there, but else he brings so much pressure, and I think pressure is the main thing of League of Legends meta at the moment. A great early game where you basically totally dominate the map and you then stranglehold them and get wards in behind, and you start taking objectives, setting up objectives. And when you can do such things, setting up objectives with the pick like Jin, it's going to work magic or wonders. Sorry, especially when you have an Olaf, because what you're going to do as an opponent, how you're going to get away from it, especially if you're running straight into them because you don't got any vision at all. So I think that's an excellent pickup, especially when you see that Fnatic don't got anything at the moment, but they could have chosen to go for something different. Then Fnatic, and this is where I think the draft derails from them. It's the last two pickups. I really don't know what they were thinking by taking Spirit on a champion like Graves. He hasn't been successful on it. That's one thing. That's not the primary thing, but it really doesn't synergize at all with the rest of the team. It's just another AD carry in a sense. And I know you could do the kind of free damage carries, but when you look at the kind of composition that G2 is pulling, you're really not getting much out of it, because you're not gonna get all those skirmishes. It's gonna be so hard for you to start with skirmishes with him without G2 coming in with teleports and such, and basically dismantling him. And then as well, how you gonna fare against Braum? I don't know, really. I know he brings a lot of pressure as well, but it's really hard when you got Ezreal and Karma. That's not the kind of thing you want, especially when the opponent got Jin and Braum. I don't think that's the right approach to it. I think there's other ways, but that's another thing. But I think you could have gone for Hecarim, for example. That would be a great pickup, because it would set the tone. It would make it much more clear what Fnatic wanted to do. I know it's simple then for G2 to realize what is going to come, but it's a way simpler strategy, and it's much easier to execute. And it's not easier to execute, but it's more simple to realize where you're at in the game and what needs to happen. When you take a champion like Graves, you're not really getting anything else than early game pressure. I don't think he's the right kind of thing for this kind of meta, especially when you don't have any CC, real form of CC, unless you use Shen. But do you really want to run in with into the phases of G2 when you're looking at it at the moment? I don't think I would run into it. I would have a champion instead who was meant to run into them. And then Febiven, he takes the safe wave clear and the safe control in the mid lane. With Victor, I don't know about this one. I think 10 out of 10 times I would have picked something like Lissandra. I know she's not that great in the meta at the moment, but she got a lot of tools and she would synergize it really well with Hecarim, and it would be much more simple. And as well, you would get a teleport, and a double teleport is so much better than not going teleport and only having one teleport. I think it limits you really badly on the map, and it basically thins you out when you know you have to win early. You can't end up in a situation where the opponent is going 1-3-1. What are you gonna do? Pull Febiven into its side lane and either getting dived or doved, sorry, or the other team is pulling down with 4 men from a guy pulling in top in a 1v1, run 1-3-1, and basically you're gonna lose so much because you're gonna getting thin out. I understand why Featherwind wants to go cleanse, but I would prefer a teleport. I know it's stupid because it would fuck up his matchup, but at least you have to have some kind of map pressure with him. I know that TF is not in that Twisted Fate is not in the meta, but I think Shen plus him would be really great in a way. And then again, if you look at Victor, what on earth is he synergizing with his team? What is he going to add to the table? Unless you count his wave clear, I don't know. He got a tremendous amount of burst. That is what he gets. But as well, you gotta add in that it's pretty obvious that G2 is going to pick Cillian. It's a great pickup from G2, but it's really obvious as well. So, and if I think from Fnatic's point of view, I really don't have a clue what they were going for, since you can see by that they got to have a plan. When you pick Shen and you pick Karma, you want to, at least from my point of view, you want to run at the opponent. You want to be in that phase. You want to be aggressive. You want to push lanes. You want something. And I can maybe understand Graves, but I cannot, under any circumstances, understand why you would go for something like Victor. I think it's too stale in a sense. It's not good enough in this kind of meta. I know his burst is great, but then you gotta reallocate your bans in another way. So you have to be able to understand the principle of that if you want to run certain things, or if you have set it up in a way, you gotta be adaptable from start on to be able to say that we have to remove certain counter picks to our composition if that is what we want to run. But it could be as well Fnatic just getting caught off feet or off balance and just scrambling to make some kind of composition. But I don't know what goes through their head, but it doesn't seem like a well thought through composition from Fnatic. And I think that win conditions are so slim because who on earth on Fnatic wants to run in? Who on earth is going to do any kind of damage? And even if you do damage, what on earth are you going to do against the Cillian? You have to get, either you go poke or you go full on engage, and then set it up in a way where you, at least if you don't want to run Hecarim, then take Lissandra and use the Graves early pressure to set up wards, to set up the early dragons, to set up things, to set up the classic teleports after a lane swap where you make people overextend. Because I know Na wants to dominate Shen, so it's very likely that he's going to overextend. And I've seen G2 enough to know that they sometimes fuck up as well, and they have a tendency to overextend. I know it's kind of a known thing, but I think Fnatic are not really pulling strings together in the way they're setting it up. That they really don't got many chances. That they have to blow up somebody, but they don't got enough CC. That they have to dominate so badly in the early game and have to set up things so well with wards. They have to dominate the warding game and have ward control constantly to be able to set it up. But then again, what are you gonna do against the blue trinkets? They're gonna ruin it all for you. So I don't know, and which lane is Spirit going to try to help? Because if you go bot lane, well, I'm sorry, but the other team got double TP, and they got a lot of tools, and they know you're going to go bot. Because if you go top, Well, I'm sorry, my friend, but I haven't seen anything from Gamsu, and it doesn't want doesn't. I haven't seen anything from Fnatic showing they want to push his lead. And I think it's a great flaw in Fnatic at the moment that they're not relocating any kind of resources to him. They're not making it possible for him. And then again, another flaw with Fnatic, they're not having any kind of flex picks. I know flex picks are not really in the meta at the moment, but you haven't seen Gamsu go for anything spectacular. And I don't think that cuts it at the moment if you want to be the top team. It's too easy for the other team to know what he's going to pick, and from G2's point of view, they knew from the start on that he's going to pick Shen, so they know all the way from the start that this is probably coming towards them. The kind of thing Fnatic is trying to pull is probably coming, and they have really a lot of time to prepare this because it's obvious they want him to play it. So I think this was set up from the start from G2, and I think Fnatic either have to think twice next time they pick up Shen, and maybe think that maybe the other team have a set strategy for when he picks it up, because at the moment it just seems like it's the only comfort pick along with Maokai that he got. I would like to see him play something like Olaf, or Irelia is going to be nerfed, but maybe something split pushy. I'm really not sure. Hecarim again. I think he's such a great pickup in the meta at the moment because he works so well around, just like last year, around the dragons, and it's so simple to, and it's not simple to set it up, but it's simple to see how you have to work with him. So it doesn't require that much kind of communication. It requires some synergy, and some setup. But once he goes in, and that's a clear call. With Shen, it's so much harder to execute, especially in a team fight. I just think Fnatic trapped themselves, and I don't understand the last two picks. Maybe I can understand why he wanted to go for something like Graves, but I think they dropped the ball completely with the last pick up with Victor. He's completely out of line when you think what Fnatic is going to do to get a win, and that's kind of X factor pick you can make that would screw around with perks, maybe make him try to go for something else, because Cillian is also a very limiting factor for G2. There's only a certain way they can play along with him, especially in team fight. So I really don't understand why you would go for Victor, except that you have trapped yourself with low wave clear. But then again, you banned Sivir, so it's your own fault in a sense. And I understand Ezreal, he's a great pick, but you gotta look at what the possibilities of the opponent and their tendencies of what they like to pick, and they're probably I think it's too obvious at the moment with Fnatic what they're going to play under certain things. For example, I think Yellowstar should try pick up Bard if he could. It's very good in this meta, and it's so clear that he can't play it. I think as well he should try pick up Tahm Kench as well. Gamsu and Yellowstar should work on Tahm Kench so they could make an excellent flex pick, because he's getting back in the meta and he's really annoying. So I think that's the kind of the next step for Fnatic if they want to be able to compete at a higher level and not just get stumped like they got today, and as well as they did against H2K in the season, in the first match in the EU LCS. And at that time they lost as well due to a very, very slim win chance. I've, by the way, I think it's a very overlooked thing when you're making drafts that you have to figure out what is your win condition. Are you limiting yourself just because you want great lane mates or matchups? You have to look how big is our possibilities. Maybe like poker, you got to for each card you draw, there's the percentage go ups and down. And I think when you look at Fnatic at the moment, sometimes at least in a draft, the further you get down, it seems like they're just scrambling, and then the percentage goes so much down in the likelihood of winning. Alright, it works fine in the early game, and it's okay to stall out, but is that a winning way? No, it's a 50-50 between the other team and you. And who's to say that the opponent haven't figured that out? I'm sorry, but the opponent can just go a late game scaling comp because they know Fnatic is not going to run over you. I just think you need, from Fnatic's point of view, you need a more clear draft where you take certain kind of composition. I know it's simple for the opponent to read, but it's also simple for you, and it's more simplified the way you want to play. And I think it's really lacking in Fnatic at the moment, at least against the top teams, because you're not gonna win in lanes against them. I'm sorry, and Spirit is great, but what about the rest of the team? You need to have something. If you go for a 50-50, you need to have something that you're certain you can execute when you get down to business, to the big team fights. And then you have to execute it. And I haven't seen that from Fnatic that often this season. So the essence of this video is probably just that I'm a little disappointed in the way that Fnatic is drafting against the top opponents, because I think they are overthinking too much, that they want good lanes or they want a proper setup, and they're not looking at what the opponents can pick, and maybe that they have figured you out. And what are you going to do to win this game? Because when you look at the draft they've made in the last couple of games, it has been a mess, a complete mess, and unrealistic. That the chances of pulling it off are so slim, and they require so much outplay. And I know League of Legends is outplay, but certain teams can do it without outplaying. And I don't think Fnatic is the team to outplay anybody. Spirit, he can do it. Fibberin can do it. The rest, I'm not so sure. They're not that gifted. Reckless is alright, but Yellowstone Gamsu, I haven't seen anything spectacular from them. So I don't think that's the way I would want to approach this kind of thing. I don't think, I'm not feeling that Fnatic are looking into what is going to work with our team, what is our strength, what is most likely to work out if you take a composition that wants to stall out and then win, because then you have to outplay them. But I'm not so sure they can do it. I would go for another round, another kind of setup. I would probably go with a 1-3-1 and basically have Fibberin being an X factor in this sense, because I know he can outplay, and I know he could dominate in lane. And I think when you're just putting him mid, he's not contributing with anything. I know he's great at Azir, but he's not playing it that properly. So I would like to see him with some kind of engage, and basically it's screaming for Lissandra in my head. I think she would be an excellent pickup with him, and if TF gets back in the mix, I think he would be great too. I want him to be able to snowball the map, because I think he can do it. He's not being used properly at the moment with Fnatic. They're making him too safe. They're making his role so limited. And it's too easy for the opponent to read what he's going to do. And if he's the kind of the X factor, and you know already what it's going to be, then what else got Fnatic except Spirit? And you can just target ban him. So I think Fnatic gotta rethink their style.